many of you are business owners? Okay? Entrepreneurs? Want to be an entrepreneur? You got it in your head? Or what did you call it? Solopreneurs? Solopreneurs? And that is, people that have an idea and you're like, I got this great idea. I know I can make some money from it. Maybe I've got another job. And, I'm just trying to find the time. I'm trying to find what is that bit of information that I need to kind of push it over and make this my career or make an income out of it. How many people are in that situation? Not many? Okay, so good. So you're either owning a business, entrepreneur, or you must be working for somebody who does own a business. Anybody working with somebody that does own a business? Okay, well, I should have covered everybody by now. So I'm Greg Harrelson, Century 21, the Harrelson Group. So I started real estate. It's not this conversation is not going to be about me, but I just want you to understand that I started real estate about 18 years ago, 19 years ago here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And I started as what I would call, that would be a solo entrepreneur in a sense, because you don't really own anything. You just come in here and you got some ideas and you want to make a splash and make some income. But what I did is I really got connected early on in my career. I got connected with a real estate coach. And the reason why I share that with you is because when the real estate coach got a hold of me, he started sharing with me, guiding me and saying, out of all the top producers in the country, these are the things that they do in order to achieve these great results. So some of my friends, or at least at that time, some of these people were maybe people I looked up to. They were selling 400, 500, 600 homes a year. Now, anybody that's been in real estate, knows anybody in real estate, or has just ever thought about real estate should immediately understand that anyone selling 400 homes in 1 year is doing very well. There's very few people who are doing that. So what happened is I associated myself with a group of individuals through this coach who were doing great things. And one of the things that we realized, or I was realizing very quickly, is they were all following a process. There was a systematic approach to actually going from here to here, or from here to here, or from here to here. It doesn't matter which direction. That's something you choose. You have to identify where you are, decide where you want to go, and then at some point, you have to have some sort of systematic approach that will help you get there. Or I would advise you to have a systematic approach. It would be much more efficient, and it would be more effective. So there's where we start. We start with being in real estate, getting coached, following a systematic approach, and then slowly but surely gaining traction. Gaining traction, selling 100 homes or 200 homes, 300 homes. In 2004, before the boom really kicked off, my father and I closed 484 transactions in Myrtle Beach in 1 year. That's a lot of transactions, but here's the key. We followed an approach. What I want to do is I want to share with you that approach, because the approach has nothing to do with real estate. The approach could have something to do with real estate. It could be creating a brand for yourself. It could be helping somebody else build their business and reach higher goals. It could be taking your own business, whatever you have, whatever idea you have. It could be taking that idea or the current business that you have, and it's taking a system or applying a systematic approach to help you to get from where you are to where you want to be. So it doesn't really matter what business that you're in. This conversation is going to be how to get what you want, how to get where you want. So if somebody wants to, do email marketing for whatever business, this is conversations for you. If you're trying to build a brand for yourself, this conversation's for you. If you're trying to build a bigger real estate business, this conversation's for you. It really doesn't matter. So what we're going to discuss the 6 phases of mastery. It's 6 steps that you must take in order to master anything. Now, it could be a diet. You could follow these 6 steps to master your relationship. So it doesn't have to be just business. It can also be personal. So I'm going to go through. I worked on these notes quite often, or for quite a long time. So forgive me. I do not stand up in front of people and try to memorize 17 pages of conversation. Now, 17 pages is a big font, so don't worry, you won't be here all day. But this is 6 phases of mastery. So I got some ideas here, or some thoughts here. You've got the ideas. Have you noticed that you're filled with ideas? You drive, you stop at the stoplight, idea comes off in your mind. And you're like, man, that'd be a great idea. I need to execute this. Or, you're laying around in the bed before you go to sleep. I got this idea. You stay awake. I got these ideas. Where are all those ideas? If you're like me and most of us, you've had so many ideas that you have not executed, and very few ideas that you have executed. Right? How many of you have executed every idea you've ever had? Nobody. How many of you will admit that 99.999% of all the ideas you have never get executed? Yeah, you realize that whatever you're looking for, you already have. It's just a matter of execution. It's like there's no need for new ideas. I mean, maybe technology you have to keep current, but for the most part, you could go back into your mind right now, think of a few ideas that you thought of just yesterday, pick one, execute it, and have instant growth in your business. Just like that. Does anybody have a problem with that? Like, they don't believe that? Okay, so then it's not about ideas. It's about execution of ideas. It's not about ideas. It's about execution. So I'm going to take you through the phases of mastery. Phase number 1 was what we call formulation phase. Okay? So when I said a moment ago, wherever you are, here, wherever you want to go here, draw a line, that's formulation phase. Formulation phase is this. You have this great idea. You're like, this is the idea. If I implement this, I will get the success. I will reach the goal that I desire. It's kind of like this. If you were to take your phone out right now and you were to say, I want to drive to California, all we would need to do is we'd take our phone out right now. We would, identify where we are on the mapping, whichever map application you're going to use. We'd put our address in there, or it'll find it for us. We don't even have to do that anymore. But we say, yes, that's where I am, and this is where I want to go, and you would hit submit. And what would happen? Wouldn't a squiggly line just start to appear, and it would connect the two dots? See, that's formulation. You have to be aware, you have to admit of where I am. I am here. In real estate, I'd say, okay, I've done 10 deals this year, but my goal is to do 100 deals. Okay, great. I know where I am. I know where I want to go. All I have to do now is connect the dots. This is what you do in the formulation phase. You actually don't really do anything but plan. In the formulation phase, we're not talking about getting to work. We're talking about business planning, strategy. I want to build a brand for myself. Well, this is the brand that I have right now, and this is the brand that I desire. I just need to hit submit and connect the dots. We won't talk about how to do anything yet. We just need to focus on what is the goal, and the hardest part is to admit where you are. No one wants anyone to see that one. It's like, well, I want to do this. I want to be branded as this. Okay, great. That's exciting. Well, where are you? Well, this is where I am. Don't want to talk about that. So one of the reasons why people fail to formulate, fail to create a plan, is because they just don't want to face reality. It doesn't matter where you are. All you have to do is put where you want to go and hit the button. The line is drawn for you. Because of Google and the internet, we don't have to hardly think. If you can think what to type into Google, then you've got the answer. It's just thinking, okay, I need to know how to get some visitors to my website. Bing. Wow. There's all these experts out there that are doing all the work for me. So what I really wanted to convey is let's not make this hard. Because you don't have to be the resource anymore in our economy. You just have to be resourceful. You don't have to be the resource. You just have to be resourceful. So the step one of here, of course, here is for formulation phase, is to admit where you are, to determine where you want to go. This is the starting and the ending point. This is where you start to get clarity on your vision. In formulation phase, there's a few things you have to identify. Number one, you have to identify what. What is it that you want? Do you want to do 500 sales? Do you want 1,000 visitors to a website, every day? Do you want 500 orders of whatever you might be selling? You have to identify what you want. That's number one. You have to know where you want to go. Then you have to focus on how. Again, we're not doing anything yet. This is the formulation phase. First phase of 6 phases of mastery. After you identify what you want, then identify how. How are you going to get it? What are you going to do? This is what I want, but now you have to be resourceful. Now's where you have to go figure out, how am I going to do it? How am I going to get additional brand recognition? How am I going to get additional traffic? How am I going to improve my conversion ratios? Whatever that is that you said you wanted, now you've got to start figuring out how. And again, you don't have to be the resource anymore in our society. You only have to be resourceful, which makes it easy. That's like, God, if I could go back in time, this would be cheating, I guess. But if I could go back in time when I was going to high school or whatever school I might have went to, and somebody would have said, look, you don't even have to know anything. You just have to know how to type in the questions into Google, and then everything you need to know for the class, for the test, will actually appear. Isn't that what is happening right now with our kids? I mean, we're actually making our kids dumber. Kids are not getting smarter. They're getting dumber, but they're getting much more resourceful, which makes them brilliant. You got that? See, we're making the kids dumber. They don't have to know as much. As long as they're resourceful, everything's right there in front of them right now. See, the same thing, though. Let me just check in with you. Can you relate to that with children? Is that kind of resonating? Okay, if you can relate to that with children, then you can relate to it yourself. It's just whenever we talk about children, that kind of stimulates a little bit of emotion because we're thinking about our kids or our niece or our, grandchild or, our brother. So we get like, yeah, that is how Johnny is that's how Johnny's living right now. See, we don't like to talk about ourselves. We like to kind of live vicariously within them. But if you even related that at all to a child, then understand you accepted that yourself. Now, I'm stressing this point for this reason only. That's how easy it is. Where do you want to go? What do you want? How are you going to get there? Be resourceful. Okay? You don't have to make this hard. You do not have to make this hard. Now, while you're being resourceful, something's going to come up, and that's going to be the next thought here, is who? Who? You must identify who you need to be talking to that can help you. See, it's no longer about figuring out how to invent it. It's just a matter of identifying who can help you. So you got to know what you want. You got to know how you're going to get it. Be resourceful. And then go find out who knows and go ask them. The reason why there's a such thing as solopreneur is because there's so much resources out there. I mean, that's the way we're going. That's the way we're going. Congratulations for any of you that didn't want to admit that that's what you want. Because you got it. Now all we got to do is execute on it. Because you don't have to know how they put the computer together. You don't have to know how they got it here. All you have to know is who you need to contact. I mean, I'm loving the next 10 years because I don't have to be that smart. I can just figure out, what do I want? Okay, well, I got to be resourceful, and I can figure out how to do it. And then once I do that, then I'll know who the others are that's doing it, and all I have to do is get into contact with them. I'm not sure exactly what inspired you to come here today. It was probably a flyer or an email. Maybe it was a phone call by someone with Gary's company. But whatever it was, you chose to spend some time here. So you can figure out how to get from here to here. So you already looked at somebody as being a potential resource. Congratulations, you're being resourceful today. So who do you need to talk to? Who can help you? And the last one here that you need in order to complete the formulation phase is you need to identify when. You must identify deadlines. Some things can be time sensitive. So if that is the case, identify them, set deadlines. So what do you want? How am I going to get there? We're going to be resourceful. Who do I need to talk to? And when will it get done by? Now that's only 4 questions you have to answer. Now, here's the great thing. I have dealt with business people all across the country, and I have looked at tons of business plans from business people and entrepreneurs. And in the end, after I get through a 30-page business plan, and I can just sit down with the person who wrote the plan, and I said, can you just answer a few questions? What do you want? Well, my intention is to grow the company by this. Okay, good. It didn't take 20 pages. That's all it took. Okay, so how are you going to get there? Well, I was talking to John, Joe, and Susan, and this is how they did it. Okay, so now you know how, and now you know who. Yeah. Okay, great. Now, when are you going to get started? And when is the first point in the plan going to get done? And when is the second point in the plan going to get done? Well, okay, let me put a little timeline to it. Okay, throw your business plan away and just execute on those few things. Now, seriously, let's just use common sense. If that's all we had to do, we would probably do more of it because a 20-page business plan becomes exhausting. Like when you're looking at this big business plan, you're like, well, I got to do all of this. Like, I think that's why a lot of people build these big business plans, so they know that because they know they're never going to do it, and they've got a built-in excuse. It's too complicated. It's too much. I don't have time. All these excuses are popping up. See, if you're in business right now for yourself, believe me, you have these excuses. And I can share with you through the coaching experiences that I've had and all of the hundreds and hundreds of people that I've coached personally that they never have time to complete their plan because their plan was not completable, if that is a word. They built the plan so they didn't have to complete it. They built it to fail because it's easier to fail and look like a victim as a business person than it is to be on top and be a target. By the way, I know that one. I know that one. It's much easier. So formulation phase, what is it? What do you want? How do you want it? Who's going to help you? When are you going to do it? You answer those 4 questions in the formulation phase, and what you just did is you just created a business plan. Now, that might not be a business plan for every single component of your business, but if you wanted to grow the number of leads that you're generating for your product or service, then you just created a plan for that. If you wanted, as a realtor, to make more real estate sales, then it's the same process. By the way, if you want to lose some weight, follow the same process. If you want to have a better relationship with your spouse, follow the same process. It doesn't really matter what it is. So let's just assume that now you've got a clear vision, you've got a plan, you've got a strategy. Congratulations. You just passed. You just got through the formulation phase. By the way, the formulation phase should not last more than 1 to 7 days. I mean, this is simple. This is not a long process. The next phase is a long, grueling process. But formulation, easy. What do you want? So, let's assume that you now have a business plan. You formulated a plan. You hit the submit button, and the line is drawn. Well, now, you've just entered into the concentration phase. Remember, there are 6 phases to mastering everything. Formulation phase is number 1. Number 2 is concentration phase. I'm going to warn, I got 3 warnings. Warning, warning, warning. Usually when warning, that means something that doesn't feel too good is going to come after. Depending on your goals, this stage can take from 90 days to a full year and possibly 2 years. I mean, if you're just starting out and you say, I want to be number 1 in this space, you might not accomplish that in 90 days, depending on how big that goal is. So the time that it takes to navigate through this phase is dictated by the goal that you've set. Just understand that. Warning number 2, this phase is the most boring time of your life in business. It'll be the most boring time. Asterisk. That's why no one makes it out of this phase. That's why so many people fail. Because they're just not willing to accept that boring makes you successful. They're constantly chasing the non-boring idea. And then this one, it's like our kids, right? Again, well, I'm on this iPad. Put that iPad down. I'm on this iPod Touch. Nope, I meant all electronics. Watching TV. Well, a TV is an electronic. They're constantly chasing something to distract them because they have a tough time sitting in silence. It's too boring. Again, every one of you can relate. But of course, it's not you. It's the children. It's not you. It's the children, right? No, it's you. Warning number 3. This is the phase where 90% of people quit. People fail in the concentration phase because they quit. They don't fail because in the formulation phase they had a bad plan. They fail because they quit. So concentration phase doesn't sound too fun or too exciting, but the concentration phase is this. The concentration phase is where the rubber meets the road. It's where you go back to the formulation phase and you figure out, okay, what did I have to do again? Concentration phase is now you get to work. We already have the plan. We've already got the detailed map. We know the line from here to there. We know how to do it. Now we just have to put the plan into action. In real estate, when I was starting out, I wanted to do 100 deals. No deals? 100 deals. Hit the button, a map. See, the line's never a straight line because there's rivers. We need to find a bridge. There's mountains that we can't get by. There's obstacles in the way. It's never a straight line. You hit submit, it's always a jagged line. 0, 100. For me, what did I have to do? What was the thing I had to do? I just had to get on the phone and prospect. That's it. I had to do something to generate leads. No matter what business or service we're in, if we got leads, we're okay. There's a conversation about converting leads, but let's save that for another day. Let's just talk about creating leads. Creating opportunities. This is what we do in the concentration phase. In branding, this is where you would start distributing your message through the various channels that might be available to you. No matter what your goals are, this is where you apply the action. So here's the keys to a successful concentration phase. While in the concentration phase, these are kind of your must. It's amazing that I have to say this, and it's not because of you, because I'm dealing with coaching of real estate producers that produce millions of dollars. And when I say millions, like, make $2 million in commissions, not sell $2 million in total volume. Forget that. I'm talking about take home money, okay? And here's what I always have to tell them. You got to go to work. The big producers, I'm always telling them, you got to go to work. I know, but now understand, they've been in it for a while, so they've got some systems in place, and they've got lead generation on autopilot. But then they're asking me, Greg, I want to get to the next level. And I said, well, all you got to do is show up. Because, see, you've got the talent. We're just not applying energy to it. You've got the resource. You are the resource. We're just not getting to work. So the first thing that you have to do is you got to get to work. Number 2, you have to follow the plan you wrote during the formulation phase. Number 3, you have to be versatile. Exercise versatility. Not everything is going to go as planned, so make sure you modify, you adjust, and you correct if you see things are going off course. You must measure the results. This is all things that you have to do in the concentration phase. It's kind of like we're in Myrtle Beach, and let's just say we want to go to Bermuda, and we're going to do it by sea, and we've got a nice luxury yacht, and we're going to go out, and at some point we get offshore, we can no longer see land behind us, but we can no longer see land in front. We can't see land in front of us. How are you going to know if you're on course or off course? You're going to have instruments on the boat. You don't need to see the land. You don't need to see the land in either direction. You just need to know that there's a straight line here that you're supposed to be on, and you're going off course. Oh, well, let me adjust. It's not about being balanced. Guess what? You boat from here to Bermuda, you will never be perfectly balanced on the line. It's not about balance. People that are telling you you need a balanced life, they are kidding you. It's not about balance. It's about counterbalance. It's about making sure that when you're out of balance, you're not too far out of balance. This is what you do in the concentration phase. You see, you get to work. You follow the plan. So let's just say that the plan said you need to send X amount of emails to some database in order to attempt to, build your brand, sell your story, get people to engage and consume your content. You do it over and over and over again systematically, just like you created the plan for in the formulation stage. Concentration is where you actually do it, okay? Now, it seems like, well, why would he have to tell us this? Well, because at some point, you're going to realize that you're doing all this work and you're not getting anything in return. Congratulations, you are now in the concentration phase. You work your tail off and you get nothing for it. So why be there? We'll talk about that in a minute. Another thing about a concentration phase that you must do, you must be consistent. Whatever your plan says, I need to make 5 calls a day to potential clients, then make those 5 calls every day. Do not miss a day in the concentration phase. What you're attempting to do is build momentum. If you wanted to start a new workout routine, try this one. Go get some new clothes, go join the gym, go work your tail off, and 2 days later after the first workout, you're so sore. Then just chill out for 2 weeks. Don't do anything, and then go to the gym again and work your tail off and be sore again. And then 2 weeks over and over again, you're going to be miserable. You can't take your foot off the gas in the concentration phase. You must decide what you want to do, start doing it, and doing it every day with consistency. Understanding, just like if you started a gym routine, over time, transformation will occur if you're consistent. If you're not consistent, then you will work hard, you will sweat hard, you will be disappointed, but transformation will never be obtained. And transformation, when we can see it, then we start to believe it. When we can see it, we start to get excited. But in the concentration phase, you're not going to see anything but hard work. That's what happens in the concentration. Did I say warning, it's not fun? If I didn't, I'll add that one because it's not that fun. You got to also understand repetitious boredom. You got to accept that things are going to be boring, like what I shared with you about the children. But it's repetitious boring. Think of, when you start thinking of some sports stars, you think of Tiger Woods. Think about how many times do you think he had to hit that 10-foot putt in practice to assure that he would be able to deliver that result in the championship round on the 18th hole to win the tournament? Michael Jordan, how many times do you think he had to practice that three-pointer in order to be in the position where everyone in the world wanted him to have the ball in the last shot and then make it when it counted? Do you realize how many millions of times they have practiced that very shot? Do you not think that got boring? I mean, you go take a golf club or whatever your hobby is that you'd like to get better at, and just go spend 1 week doing it 5,000 times. You will be bored. Those who master repetitious boredom succeed at high levels. You got to master repetitious boredom. You have to be comfortable with being bored. I just try to convince my children, and, I can't say that I'm being too successful at it. They need to be comfortable being by themselves in silence. I didn't say I'm achieving it, okay? I'm one of those that I'm in pursuit of it and will always be in pursuit of it, but I'm still after it. They hear me. It's going to be like me and my dad. I heard them, but it takes me 40 years to figure out, well, yeah, actually, I'm starting to repeat the same things he said. And he's still not right, but, at least it sounds good, right? Next, you got to be patient. You pick a plan. You get to work. Give it some time to gain traction. Give it some time. It takes a little time. I mean, if it was easy as do this, instant gratification, which we want, if it was that easy, the competition would be extraordinary. I am happy that every problem that we typically have in reaching goals is all mental because it's the hardest thing to coach. So I feel like, okay, I'm in good shape. If I can keep mentally strong and I can be patient and I can master repetitious boredom and I can be consistent, if I can be those things, I have got an edge on my competition because guess what? The how is nothing more than go to Google and ask how. The information's there. So what is the game changer? What differentiates you from other people? You're willing to stick in it. You're willing to do it day in and day out. Be consistent. Be patient. It's okay. Boredom is great. Great. I've always thought about this because I've had many conversations about repetitious boredom, and one of my coaches asked me to just think about legends. So like Michael Jordan, I think we could all say, will be a legend, looked at as a legend. And there's many, many other people, and it doesn't have to be sports. It just happens to be what comes to the top of my mind. But when you think about legends, it could be a violinist. Doesn't matter what they do. If you think about a legend, think about how boring it must have been to get to that status. And you think about a top producer, no matter what the business is that you're in, it's boring that got them there. It wasn't just try a bunch of things every other week. It was master very few things. Be patient. You'll feel like you're putting in way more effort. When you're in the concentration phase, it's kind of like this. It's kind of like you're on a hamster wheel. It's like you're doing this thing right here, and you're just spinning. You're just rolling with it, but not getting anywhere. I'm trying to think, what is the positive things that I can say about concentration phase? Well, if you commit to it, you'll get to the next phase. It's the only thing I can say that's actually fun about the concentration phase. The good thing for me as a businessman, when I look at competition, and you should look at your competition the same way, I always say, they won't make it through concentration. They won't make it through concentration. Doesn't matter what business I would be in. They won't make it through concentration. Yeah, but they're copying what you do. They won't make it through concentration because that's a mental game. That's not a how-to game. So let's just assume you're okay with all this. Here we are, 6 months later. You've worked your plan. Even though you didn't want to, you were patient. You did what you said you were going to do over and over again. Congratulations. You made it to the next phase. The next phase is what we call the momentum phase. Now, I like this phase. I'd love to stay in this phase all the time, but I will tell you this. If you were to stay in this, you couldn't stay in this phase because you could not handle the increase in volume for long stretches of time before your infrastructure would crumble. Your systems would crumble because they couldn't handle the volume. So momentum phase, this is a phase that we can get excited about. After concentrating for a period of time, you'll start to see a sudden burst of results. This is where you start to reap the benefits of your hard work for the last 6 months. Unlike the concentration phase where you're working a lot and getting paid very little, that's how you feel. Man, I've been doing everything Greg says. Man, it's been 90 straight days. I've done everything he said. I don't think it works. In my office when I'm training agents, I know between 75 and 100 days, the new agent in my office is actually going to claim that I sold them a bill of goods, and they're going to say, Greg doesn't know what he's talking about. It happens every time. It's hilarious. All the experienced agents, we look at the new agents, we're like, okay, when is this going to happen? It's almost like we bet. Because remember, I've told them this is what you have to do, and I said, be patient. You're going to be bored as heck. You have to do this every single day, and they come in and they do it every single day. And like 75 days later, they haven't even gotten a lead yet. I said, just chill out. You weren't supposed to get a lead. I said it was 90 days. After 90 days, we'll talk. And it's like clockwork. Boom. See, I know the phase in real estate. It's like clockwork, 90 days. If they do it, the concentration phase, 90 days, the result appears. Because here's what happens. In real estate, you make all these calls in the beginning. And then all of a sudden, 90 days, you get over here and you're still making calls. Your skills are getting a little bit better because you've done so much practice. Now, all of a sudden, you've got somebody to say yes. You get all excited. But what about all those calls that you've been making for the last 90 days? Oh, I got a voicemail. There's a voicemail. Who's in the voicemail? Oh, John Doe is calling me back. I don't even know who John Doe is, but she said that we talked 2 months ago. And she wants to now consider selling her home. And because I've been keeping everybody on my email notifications, I got this email today also, and somebody's thinking about buying, and they're coming down next week. Now, all I did was my job, which was whatever my job was that day, I produced one lead that day. But because I've been doing this and concentrating for so long, now it's an accumulation effect. Now I'm getting somebody to call me back. I'm getting somebody to email me back. That's what momentum looks like. It actually shifts from I'm working my tail off and getting nothing to this is wonderful. I'm actually just doing the same thing I've been doing, and man, I'm crushing it. That's what it looks like in momentum phase. I can assure you it does not matter what your service is or product is or what it is you're looking to accomplish. We'll go back to a diet, go back to a fitness program, go join a gym and actually create a plan and actually concentrate and follow that plan for about 45 days and look in the mirror and you'll be like, holy cow, I'm awesome. But did you say that the first day when you got sore? No. You were thinking about quitting, but you resisted quitting. You resisted eating bad. You said, I'm going to concentrate on my plan. I'm going to stick with it this time. And you got to some period in the future and you looked in the mirror or somebody made a comment to you and says, wow, you look really nice. They acknowledge you for what you've done. Then you get real motivated. Ooh, I'm going to go work out 2 times a day. See, that's what happens. That's what the concentration to momentum transition looks like. But can you see, just imagine, because this might be concepts that you haven't heard before, maybe a few of you have heard something similar, but can you imagine where it goes wrong? Can you imagine how hard it is in the concentration phase to stick it out when you're putting out all this energy and you're getting nothing in return for the absolute belief that if you follow long enough that it's going to produce a return? You got to have faith that it's actually going to occur. In the formulation phase, when you're trying to figure out how, make sure you're going to the right website. When you're identifying who, make sure who is validated. Check the references. Because if that's how you're going to build your plan in the formulation phase, then that's what you're going to be relying on in the concentration phase. And if you're getting misinformation, then you're never going to kick into momentum, assuming you would never make that mistake. But that mistake is made often. So, you got momentum. Things are going good. Remember, momentum is a sudden burst of new business. But I want to tell you about momentum killers. Because ultimately, if you follow this process, you will get to momentum. I can assure you. If you don't get to momentum following this process, and I was your coach, then I can assure you I would probably be able to figure out that you did not show up. It wasn't the process. It'll all be us personally. So momentum killers. Unfortunately, there are some pitfalls that we must avoid in the momentum phase. If we fall into any of these traps, then we have to go all the way back to the beginning of concentration phase and do it all over again. You don't want to do that. Has anybody done CrossFit? Anybody done CrossFit? Okay, you've done CrossFit. So it's a pretty intense workout. And here's the deal. If you ever start CrossFit, don't ever quit, because you're going to be sore every single day. If you quit and start and stop and start and stop, you are going to be miserable. You just need to go consistently. If you fall into any of these traps in the momentum phase, you have to start all over from the beginning, which is the entire concentration phase is a phase that we just have a hard time with. We don't enjoy that. So just try to avoid these traps. Number 1 trap is overwhelm. Not, by the way, the most common, number 1 on my list. Overwhelm. So all of a sudden, you're working in the concentration phase, and this wave starts to build, and it starts to set in, and now there's a whole new, there's an increase of leads coming your way. But you don't have a system to put the leads in it. You don't have a nurture system, a nurture campaign already set up to be able to communicate to them effectively. Maybe you're not using automation. Why would you need automation? You've never really had this much business. So what ends up happening is all this unexpected business comes in, and you're having to manage that. So what you end up doing is this business comes in, and you're like, oh my God, I got to take care of this. Oh gosh, there's a fire I got to put out here. Oh, here's an opportunity. I got to go take on this opportunity. So guess what you stop doing? You stop concentrating. You stop doing the things that it took to get you to momentum phase. In real estate, again, I'll reflect on real estate because that's the business that I'm in. In real estate, it looks like this. Concentrate, prospect. Oh my gosh, I'm in momentum. 90 days later, I got all these leads. Oh man, I don't want to lose all these leads. I got to manage these leads. Stop prospecting to manage these leads. Stop prospecting. Eventually, momentum phases out, dies. Well, listen, you would hopefully you would have converted all those new leads and turned them into some income, but about the time they start closing and you get your checks, you would look back and find out, I got nobody left. I got to start all the way over again. Email marketing, branding, blogging, whatever you may be doing, this applies. You have to keep your foot on the pedal at all times. When you get into momentum phase, you need to immediately take a step back, evaluate your infrastructure, and make sure your systems can support the new level of business that you have. That's how you manage overwhelm. You may be overwhelmed. You may be experience overwhelm, but you don't have to be overwhelmed. You don't have to let it push you all the way back. You just have to identify it, notice it, and immediately address it. If you do that, great. You'll stay in momentum. But here's the most common momentum killer. It's called ego. Boy, do I deal with this one. It's ego. It's like all of a sudden you do a bunch of blogs and you do these email campaigns and you got all this stuff set. It's all set out there. It's in the space, and everyone can see it. And then all of a sudden you get all this new business and momentum and you're like, okay, I got it. I did it. And you kind of just sit back and you say, you know what? I've arrived. People are finding me now. I don't really have to go out there and continue to find them. They're finding me. Ego sets in. We start actually believing that we are what got the results when we are not what got the results. It was the process that got the results. Heck, I could plug anybody in the process and get the result. But I can't take anyone without a process and actually get a result. It's all about the process. The process created the result. But ego sets in, and we forget that we even went through this process, and we start saying, well, gosh, hey, no, I'm good. I'm getting, 200 leads a day, 200 leads a week, 200 leads a month, whatever it is. We're like, hey, I don't need to do that anymore because it's automated now. I got it coming in. Whew, big mistake. It's all ego-based. Your result is always a product of the process. I wish we could say it's all about me. It's all about the process. But let me tell you, anybody who does follow the process, congratulations, because you are in a very small elite group. Now, the thing that I like about this conversation is, again, it's not that hard. I'm starting to sense, when I say I'm starting to sense, it's because I don't think that this has dawned on me any time that I've talked about the phases of mastery, but isn't this conversation just about discipline? I mean, that's pretty much what we talked about so far. It's just discipline. So, man, what that means is everything, every opportunity that you dream of, every idea that you have that you would like, or goal that you have that you would like to reach, is already in your grasp. So many people are just lacking the discipline to follow the process. Now, that's an opportunity. That means you can leave right now, figure out what you want, how, which is you just have to be resourceful, who's going to help you, and put some timelines on it, and you can reach your goal. If you think about the goals that you haven't reached, most of the time, not all of the time, I admit it, but most of the time you have failed in one of those areas. If you become a victim of any of these momentum killers, you actually have to start all the way over again in concentration phase. But now that you know the momentum killers, now that you know the pitfalls, now you know the stage ends right here. I mean, if I fall off this stage, I mean, if I laugh, because it'll be something good to laugh at, but I mean, I know where the line is. I mean, shame on me if I fall off. I'm very clear on where the line is. See, you all are clear on where the line is. Now, the good thing about that is you know where the line is. The bad thing is now you carry the burden of your own failure. The burden's on you. It just shifted. Liability's on you. If you are not reaching the goals that you want to reach, I'm sorry to say it, but it's not because you don't know how to. It's not because you don't know who can help you. You're just not following the process. So the next phase, let's just assume for a moment we've made it through momentum phase. Now all of a sudden, we get to the next phase. It's called stabilization. Stabilization phase. Most business people spend years, the business people that reach stabilization typically spend years in this phase. Years and years and years. A lot of them, get so comfortable, they never want to leave this phase because they have this perceived risks that they could if they took another risk, that everything could crumble down on them. So it's why a lot of people stay in the stabilization phase. But there are 3 obvious reasons why people fail to stabilize. Kind of a recap here. They fail to create the plan, which is to formulate. They quit too early, meaning concentration, right? They couldn't handle the boredom, so they quit too early. Or their ego is too big, and they got overwhelmed. So that's why people don't get to the stabilization phase. The stabilization phase, again, is going to be determined by your desires of growth. If you have went through the phases up to this point and you've reached your goal, which is stabilization phase, then you're going to determine at that point if you want to reach another goal. And the determination that you arrive, what you end up determining for yourself will dictate where you go from here. But there are 2 additional phases. So stabilization is this. It's where you have systems in place that allow you to effectively manage the increased business that you just generated through concentration and momentum. You probably got your systems more automated. You may have added some staff, depending on what business you're in. You may have had to add some staff. Keep you and all the other things that you're having to deal with organized. Delegation becomes critical. I mean, think about the journey you've been on. You've just created a plan. You've been working your tail off. You got all this, sudden burst of new business, and now you've got to handle this. It's probably, if you've done this correctly, you may not be able to handle it all by yourself. You're going to need some help. And what you're going to have to do once you get help is you're going to have to delegate, which unfortunately means you're going to have to let go, which means you can't control everything, which is going to mess with your ego again. For those of us that are control freaks when it comes to our businesses. But you're going to have to delegate to be effective in the stabilization phase. You have to measure your results. Look at the analytics. See what's going on. Look for ways to improve. See, you may be testing different methods of lead generation. And looking at, does this tagline or does this subject line perform better than this subject line? So you're perfecting your system. You're still concentrating because you always concentrate. After ring number 1, Michael Jordan still concentrated. After ring number 2, he still concentrated. After ring number 3, he still concentrated. He's still concentrating right now about something. He's a concentrating machine. That's why he's always producing results. So you've got to measure in the stabilization because you're looking for holes, you're looking for gaps, you're looking for small opportunities to improve, to be more effective. This is what we do in stabilization. You can still grow because you're becoming more efficient. at what you're doing. Statistics are important in order to build the business, and statistics allow your business to become predictable. In the stabilization phase, there should be, you should be able to predict what is going to happen. When I do this, I can predict based on all the measurements that I've had over the last year, I can predict this result. Here's what I know in real estate. Here's what I know for every one of my agents. I know how many dollars they make for every no they get. So if I'm training somebody in real estate across the country or locally to prospect, and they were going to make 30 calls a day, talk to 30 people a day, and 29 people told them no and one person told them yes, they make the same amount of money for the no as they do the yes. Because you take their commission and you have to divide it by the time that they spent to find the commission, and they must divide it equally amongst every single contact they made. So I asked one of my agents before I came over, I said, hey, how many contacts did you make today? He says, not enough. I said, that wasn't the question. How many did you make? 25. How many were you supposed to make? Well, I was supposed to make 30. Okay, how much is a contact worth? It's worth $45. Well, what's 5 times 45? I don't know. That's 225? I said, well, that's how much money you lost today. And that's predictable. Because I know the numbers. I know the statistics. That's how you want your business. That's stability. Because whenever something happens to the economy, if you know the statistics, you can adjust. And those adjustments that you make will change the result. So if it gets tougher, guess what I got to do? Increase the contacts. I can still predict and figure out how to get the result. The process may have to change depending on the circumstances, but this is your job in stability phase. This is where you become very smart. This is where you really go to another level when it comes to understanding the business. I put here, this is where you become business mature. Business maturity is developed at the stabilization phase. It's where you gain maturity. We're not like, oh, let me do this. Oh, let me do this. Oh, this get rich thing. Get rich quick. That's not too mature. I mean, that's iPod. This, that. That's all that is. Slow down. We all have to slow down. Be resourceful. Identify who's going to help you. That's formulation, concentrate. Momentum will occur if you stay into concentration. After momentum occurs, you avoid the momentum killers. Welcome to stability. You can stay the rest of your life at this phase if you choose to, and it's perfectly fine. If you just get here, you're in an elite group. To go any further, if you want to, go for it. But at least you've stabilized your business. You've probably stabilized your financials. You're probably starting to stabilize your relationships. And last but not least, you're probably starting to stabilize your health. Well, maybe it'll be health and then your relationships. Who knows what you would choose? Because once you apply the process to your business, you'll quickly realize that it has nothing to do with business. It's just formulate a plan and go to work. Momentum will just occur because people who actually work are rare. And the easier things get because of the internet, guess what? The harder it is to actually work. So, now choices become before us. You can stay at stabilization, which, by the way, is phase number 4. Phase number 5 is optional. It's called breakthrough phase. It's the breakthrough phase. The breakthrough phase begins at any point throughout the stabilization phase because it's a choice. Imagine yourself working hard to reach that particular goal. You're finally stabilized, right? You finally got there. Now the things are running smooth. You've worked on your infrastructure. Things are running smooth. And then all of a sudden, you have a sudden burst of new business again. That is what a breakthrough looks like. So if we were going to kind of draw it out, it would be like you start here at formulation, and you get to work, concentration, momentum, stabilize. Stay there the rest of your life if you choose to. But if you want to reach another goal, what's going to happen is breakthrough. Ooh, breakthrough, stabilize. Breakthrough, stabilize. I mean, ultimately, the real top business people in any field, what they've done is they've figured out the process to go from stabilization to breakthrough, restabilize, breakthrough, restabilize, breakthrough, and just continue to do it over and over and over again. And those are the producers in any industry that are seeing nice, healthy increases, growth in revenue year after year. They're stabilizing, breaking through, restabilizing, breaking through. Again, you don't need to know anything. Just go to Google. How do I do it? Oh, there it is. You just have to work. So here's 5 do's, must-dos in order to create a breakthrough. While stabilized, you must set some time aside to create a new short-term goal. See, what happens is you're stabilizing. Well, one of the things that you're doing in stabilization is you're thinking, well, what do I want now? Well, I'd like to grow my business in this area. Maybe I'm getting business from this group, but I want to start getting business from this group in addition to that group. Now you're identifying a new want. You're not changing anything you've got. You're stabilized. You're just identifying something else you want. And then what's the next thing you're going to do? How am I going to do it? Who's going to help me? And set some timelines. So while you're in stabilization, you're actually going to reformulate. But you don't have to go all the way back. You're not breaking anything down. You're not abandoning anything. You're just formulating a new plan. And your new base is stabilization phase. You're not formulation phase. You're doing it from up here now. Much more fun to start here than down here. I can assure you of that. So, what do you want to accomplish? How will you do it? Who do you need? And when are the deadlines? Answer those questions again. Just, you know what, as a matter of fact, just always answer those questions. Always ask and have the answers to those questions if you want to experience growth in something. As soon as these are identified, then start concentrating. Because again, if you know how to do it, now all you got to do is start concentrating. Just get to work. Just start doing it. It's as simple as that. I don't want to make it more difficult. If I'd made it any more difficult, or if it was, I'd have problems myself. I just focus on simplicity. It's got to be simple for me. Once you formulate your new short-term goal, because I recommend at stabilization phase, in order for breakthrough, we're not talking about, well, I'm going to go and have 1,000% increase. No, we're looking for small increments, small improvements. These are add-ons, because you've already got a profitable, business. You're stabilized. You're going to add on this here and add on this here to a nice core, to a nice base that you've developed through this process. So focus on those things, on the what, how, who, and when. And now through concentration is where you actually, get to work on those things. Be consistent again, because that is one of the core requirements of a successful concentration phase. Keep the ego in check, because remember, this gets tougher because now you're making more money. You're actually getting better results. And now you got to go and do that again. Here's what it looks like in real estate. Happens all the time. Take a real estate agent. They come into the business. 90 days. They do a deal, which is remarkable for real estate. All of a sudden, 2 years later, they're at 60 deals, 70 deals a year, maybe 80 deals a year if they're really, really, really sharp and motivated. And then all of a sudden, they're like, they see a new agent. I'll call him a rookie agent. They see a new agent coming into my office, and all of a sudden we start training them on how to concentrate and prospect, and they're failing, and they don't look like they know what they're doing, because they don't know what they're doing. And then all of a sudden, my good producer that's doing 70 deals now, he's like, well, I don't want to do that. That's what rookies do. No, that's the problem. The ego, see? He's like, the top producers want to stop prospecting because of what it looks like. Oh, I'm a top producer. I don't have to do that. So when I was coaching for a real estate company, a coaching company out of California, I got one of two clients all the time. I either got high income, high net worth clients. So somebody's making, say, 1.2 million, but they've made 1.2 million like for 3 consecutive years. But they want to get to 2 million in earned, like commissions earned. Well, the reason why I was the guy that they would call on to coach is because I would look them right in the face and I'd say, your ego is out of control. You have disconnected with what got you to where you are. And if you'll reconnect and humble yourself and do the things that it took to get you where you are, you will go to another level you never knew existed. Now, the reason I got those people is because I was one of the very few confrontational coaches that would actually not be intimidated by the person. Confrontation is my coaching style. Good, bad, it is the style, but that's the type of client that I was very effective with. Very effective with. And the second client was new people. Because I could show them the process and hold them accountable. Confrontation style is usually pretty good at holding people accountable. And that's what a new person needs. Breakthrough. You got to delegate. These are all the things that we've already talked about. See, in a breakthrough phase, all you got to do is do the things that actually got you to stability. You just do them over. Your base is just stable. It's not beginning. Once you follow the process, you'll create a breakthrough. You must understand that you will not stay in the breakthrough phase too long. You'll get a sudden burst of business because you reformulated and concentrated, and then you'll go back to stabilization phase. So, phase 6, and we're going to end. Phase 6 is this. It's mastery. Now, warning, very few people reach this phase. And I'm not even sure if I know anyone that's ever reached this phase. I know people that have claimed that they reached this phase, but one of the things that occurs in the mastery phase is do nothing and everything occurs. Now, I've seen some friends and some people that do very little, but I've never seen anybody do nothing and everything just occurs. But by definition, the way that we define mastery is literally do nothing and everything occurs. So you may never reach it. The point is not to reach mastery. The joy is actually in the pursuit of mastery. That's where the joy is. That's where the fun is. That's the game. It's the pursuit. That's where we go and we give it all at our workplace, today, and we leave successful or not successful, knowing that we followed the process, we were in the game, we did what we were supposed to do, and if we continue to do that enough, eventually we will reach mastery, or at some point we will reach a level where we say, gosh, I should pat myself on the back without ego. So there you have the process. It doesn't really matter what you want to do. Doesn't matter what business that you're in. If you'll follow the phases of mastery, formulate, concentrate, momentum, stabilize, breakthrough, stabilize, breakthrough, stabilize, breakthrough, stabilize, breakthrough, every that's the rest of your life, mastery. There's your 6 phases. I hope sincerely that you're able to take these phases and look at the business that you're in. Look at the goals that you have. And just sit down and give it a shot. Give it a shot. Answer those first few questions that I shared with you. Concentrate. Commit to 90 days, 6 months, or 12 months. Commit to something. And just say, I am going to do this. Success or failure, I will commit. Listen, if you commit and follow through, that is a success. Forget the result. If you can do that, that is a success. What I challenge you to do is be successful in that one area. If you take that away from this conversation, if just one of you do it, then I would be fulfilled at spending the time with you all. So congratulations for being here. You're being resourceful. Good luck to you.